Welcome to the Complete Streets Commission's December 10th regular commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating in accordance with public health guidelines. I would like to introduce Complete Streets Commission members and city staff present. I am Chair Athena Irakomos. Commissioners present include Sally Cole, Jackie Sebrian, Meredith Bergen-Bailey, Matthew Raskoff, Scott Herscher, and Kevin Rennie. City staff present include Azalea Mitch, Public Works Director, Michael Fu, Assistant Public Works Director, Joanna Chan, Transportation Manager, Katrine Maki, Senior Transportation Planner, and Cassandra Cortez, Associate Transportation Planner. Katrine, would you please provide instructions to the Commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Chair Irakomos and members of the Complete Streets Commission. For members of the public who wish to provide public comment for any item on tonight's agenda, after the chair calls for public comment on that item, if you are in person, we ask you to fill out a speaker card available at the back table and return that to the clerk's desk. If you are participating virtually, attendees on Zoom may engage a raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. That concludes the instructions, and I return the meeting to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is reports and announcements. Under reports and announcements, city staff and commission members may communicate general information of interest regarding matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No commission discussion or action can occur on any of the presented items. Katrine, could you please provide any reports or announcements?
Yes, one quick announcement. Last night, the city council, they had their reorganization, and so they appointed Councilmember Nash as our new mayor and Councilmember Wise as the vice mayor. That concludes my reports and announcements.
Thank you. The next item is public comment. Under public comment, members of the public may address the Complete Streets Commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. You are not required to provide your name or city of residence, but it is helpful. The commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Katrine, could you call for public comment?
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table and bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. Rich, would you like to go first? Hold on 1 second.
43-year resident, Oak Avenue, near Oak Knoll School. And I wanted to talk about the Middle Avenue traffic calming project. Will that be a regular agenda topic this evening or not? Don't want to jump the gun. Okay, so it's been great that has been installed. I've got a few suggestions though, and I'm hoping they can be easily resolved. As many of you know, CRISP is the third-party vendor for installing signs as well as striping. The problem is that where they put the speed humps ahead signs are either obscured or they are in a forest of signs. The reflective markings on the speed humps are not all that clear, especially in the dark and in the rain, and people who are watching traffic, oncoming vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists. So to me, it's a very simple improvement to install speed hump and recommended 15-mile-an-hour signs at the locations of those speed humps rather than too far in advance. Those are my recommendations for that part of it. The other thing is that what we found is, as I had forecast, a virtual Le Mans. You have people who slow down now on Middle, but then once they hit Olive, hang a left to go out Oak to get to Sand Hill, they floor it. And it's become a veritable raceway and really dangerous. Planning Commissioner Mrs. Sillam wrote an email to council in September as an Allied Arts resident and as an Oak Knoll parent, I believe, and felt strongly that we cannot consider this to be in a vacuum. We need to consider the entire route, Middle, Olive, and Oak, up to Oak Knoll School for safe routes to school. And very, very easy fix to do that. So I'd like the commission to give strong consideration to that as soon as possible. Thanks.
I'm sorry, Rich, I just had two clarifying questions. I just couldn't hear when you were talking about the speed humps on Middle. What did you say was in your mind the proposed solution to it? I couldn't quite figure that out, what you said. Signs at the speed humps?
You need to have signage where the actual speed humps are. And there are a couple of places they could easily just install a sign on the same pole where you have another sign of some manner. Some of them say safe routes or what have you, right? There might be 3 or 4 different signs. The problem is where they installed the speed hump ahead sign, they're too far in advance.
Oh, that's what you said. Okay,
And
that's
2
what I
of
was
them
getting.
going outbound on Middle are obscured by trees.
Okay,
And when I questioned the installers, they said, well, that was in the work order.
okay, thank you, Rich. And the
Doing
second,
what we're told to do.
thank you. I'm sorry, the second thing I couldn't understand what you said was when you were talking about Oak, between Olive and Sand Hill, you said a planning commissioner? Someone's name had suggested something?
Mr. Sillam, he's a planning.
Mission,
commissioner.
okay, Mission,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. I didn't
And
hear
a
the
parent
word.
and frequent cyclist with the
Yeah,
kids.
no, thank you. I just
Mhm.
couldn't quite hear what you said. So
Sure,
thank you. Just want
okay.
to clarify. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Okay, Rick Morris online. You are unmuted.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, hi. So I'm Rich Rollins' neighbor. I live at 1875 Oak Avenue. There's a stop sign right in between our homes. And my biggest concern is the traffic coming from Sand Hill with a right turn onto Oak Avenue. And there's a speed bump down the street, but I think we need another one closer to the stop sign because I would say 50 to 60% easy. The traffic don't stop at that stop sign, and a lot of people blow by it. Blow right through it. And I've been recording. If I have some quick videos, I'm happy to share if I'm able to do that. And last night I was out there, someone blew right through about 65 miles per hour in a Mercedes, didn't even slow down. So super concerned, continue to be concerned, and we want to know what the plan is. And there was some talk about putting a stop sign or moving the stop sign closer to the intersection to making it a smaller intersection. And I'm not for that. I obviously don't want a stop sign right in front of my house. And my wife's a teacher at Los Luminas. She backs out every morning to go to school, and she relies on the stop sign being where it is now. So I don't know if we're going to discuss what the actual plan is this evening. Is that on the agenda? I mean, that's all I have to say. I mean, again, I have some videos to share if anyone cares to see them. Cars just constantly blowing through there from this morning, yesterday, and one day in October.
Sorry, could you clarify the stop sign? You said closer
Yeah.
to the stop sign. At what intersection?
Yeah, Oak and Oak Knoll.
Okay, thank you.
And Miss Sebrian knows which one that is because I know she rides by it every day. So.
Okay. Having no one further in queue for public comment, I return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you. Next item is regular business. Under regular business, the commission considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require commission approval. The first regular business item tonight is E1, accept the Complete Streets Commission minutes for November 12th, 2025. Is there any clarification from the commission before I take public comments? Okay. Katrine, could you please call for public comment on this item?
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature. Or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table, bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. Having no one in queue for public comment, I return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and second to accept the minute?
Can I just provide some feedback quickly? I appreciate, Katrine, that you outlined the content of the discussions in the minutes. I think that was really makes them so useful and helpful. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And also just, I think for the public to know, like for each of the subcommittees, who's on it and what the purpose is, it is really, really helpful. Thank you.
Any motion to accept? Commissioner Seabrain? And Commissioner Bergen-Bailey, a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay. Motion is passed. The next item is E2, receive an update on the Public Works Department projects. Staff Azalea Mitch, Public Works Director, Michael Fu, Assistant Public Works Director, and Joanna Chan, Transportation Manager, will present this item.
Great. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you very much for having us today. Azalea Mitch, Public Works Director, and I'm here with Michael Fu, Assistant Public Works Director, and Joanna Chan, Transportation Manager. So we will be providing tonight an overview of the department. Our capital improvement plan will focus on highlighting a few projects, and we'll open it up to your feedback and questions. So what do we do as a Public Works Department? We're responsible for maintaining and improving all of the city's public assets, which includes our streets, our signals, everything in the public realm that you can see, as well as what you all cannot see, which is our storm drain system. And we're also a water purveyor to about half of the city. So we have basically two systems that provide water to residents on the east side and west side of the city. We have an operating budget of $42 million, and we're responsible for the capital improvement plan delivery. In terms of our structure, there are 72 of us. Under the Public Works Director is our Assistant Public Works Director, who oversees the CIP section and land development, our Transportation Manager, our Assistant Public Works Director, who oversees maintenance, and those are the staff that you see out in our public right of way, basically maintaining everything that is in the public realm, and our Internal Services Manager, who oversees our Business Services Division and who assists us in developing our budgets and procurement and a lot of administrative support. So as part of, we work across divisions within the department, and we also work across many of the departments within the city. The CIP team is a pretty critical team within our department because we are responsible for meeting council's priorities, planning for improvements that we see are coming, and also thinking about the long-term sustainability of the city. In the CIP team, we have the assistant director, 10 engineers and project managers. And this is where we have struggled over the past few years because we've had significant vacancies, a number of vacancies within the department. So we've been focusing on a lot of street improvements and high priority projects. So the responsibilities of this team: planning, design, construction of every public project, and we coordinate with our transportation colleagues, the maintenance division, and many of the other departments within the city. In our transportation division, under the transportation manager, we have senior engineers and a senior transportation planner. And the responsibilities here are mixed. There are a lot of operational responsibilities as it relates to making sure that our traffic signal system is working, that we're planning for improvements. We oversee the shuttle program, the Safe Routes to School program. We're heavily involved in development reviews, and we work with you, the commissioners of the Complete Streets Commission. We coordinate with our CIP team, maintenance division, and other city departments as well. In terms of how we prioritize our capital improvement plan specifically, every year our city council has a priority workshop where they set the city's priorities. This last year, it was climate action, downtown vibrancy, emergency and disaster preparedness, housing, and safe routes. So we take a look at those priorities. We take a look at projects that are existing, that are in construction, that must be completed. We assess what it has been finalized in design. And we also work with our maintenance team on addressing any repair and replacement of infrastructure that is just in poor shape or failing. We then assess new projects based on funding availability and our bandwidth, our staffing, and whether we are fully staffed or have significant vacancies. The phases of a project, I think you're all familiar. We plan, and the planning phase includes really assessing, doing the chartering, assessing what the needs are, the goals and objectives, whether studies are needed. We identify stakeholders, and we develop the scope of work, and at that time also develop high-level budgets and schedule. When we're ready to embark on the design, that's where we work on defining the full scope and address any environmental clearance requirements, and then engage on finalizing that, all along with public outreach. And then we get ready to bid, award, and construct. So this last year, we presented to the City Council a plan with 66 CIP projects. We had 60 million in carryover budget and requested 19 million for this year for ongoing and new projects. As you can see, the categories here involved our city buildings, the environment, parks and recs, stormwater, streets, traffic and transportation, and water. And about 40% of the funding needs for this budget were focused on streets and transportation. In terms of the 5-year outlook, our average in terms of the annual CIP programs, they total about 6 to 8 million. And then we have larger projects. You can see the traffic and transportation bars there. We've got the middle undercrossing, which is it's a large project for us, as well as high voltage. And then on the water side, we have plans to build a reservoir. So for this year's highlights, we have had we've been, even with a small team, have accomplished a lot. We completed the Haven Avenue Streetscape project, also our annual street resurfacing efforts. We are substantially complete for Middle Avenue Complete Streets, and we're in construction for high voltage. We also just completed the El Camino Ravenswood pedestrian improvement, just as of a few weeks ago. And we have quite a few projects in design. We'll be highlighting some of those in this presentation, as well as pilots that you're very well aware of, the Coleman Avenue Bike Pilot, Nealon, frontage parking, Blake Street closure. And in planning, we have efforts on downtown parking management, as well as future designs on Middlefield Road. We have the Slow Streets program, which will be coming to you early next year, and then other efforts on grade separations. And with that, I will pass it on to Joanna.
Good evening. Good evening, commissioners and members of the public. One of the division's goal is to implement Division Zero Action Plan to improve safety across the city. And the plan categorizes projects into tiers based on historic collision data. then they were prioritized through risk factors such as speeds and vulnerable road users. These maps reflect where priority safety projects are at intersections based on this approach. And this map reflects where priority safety projects are along the corridors, and this is in alignment with the Transportation Master Plan. In the next slides, we will like to highlight a few of these key projects for you. So the Santa Cruz-Sand Hill corridor aims to improve pedestrian and bicycle safety along Santa Cruz Avenue between University Drive to Orange Avenue, Sand Hill Road between Oak Avenue and Sharon Park Drive, Sharon Park Drive between Sharon Road and Sand Hill Road. The improvements will be mainly guided by the 2024 Complete Streets Safety Assessment, and improvements include, for example, high visibility crosswalks, bollards, speed feedback signs, and signage and striping at selected locations. The project is primarily funded through the Measure A and W pedestrian and bicycle program. We're currently requesting proposals for design and aim to begin the design phase in January 2026 with construction in 2027. The downtown parking study evaluates and proposes strategies to make the best use of our existing parking spaces. And we look at opportunities for amenities, curb management, and just overall efficiencies and improvements. It also considers and anticipates, anticipated future parking needs. The draft recommendation report is currently in progress, and it will include the feedback from the September open house and also over 1,000 survey responses. The draft report is expected in January 2026. We're also kicking off a supplemental scope in January 2026 that will continue the efforts of this draft report, and both of these efforts has received funding from MTC. The Caltrain Quiet Zone project, when established, will eliminate the train horn blasts at all of Menlo Park's train crossings. To qualify for the establishment of this quiet zone, we have planned for 4 quadrant gates at Ravenswood Avenue and Oak Grove Avenue crossings. The project is currently in design phase, and we recently completed a field audit with the Federal Rail Administration, the California Public Utilities Commission, as well as Caltrain, and additional design needs have been identified, and we're currently working to address those. Our plan is to return to council early next year during the year adjustment, so we can complete the design phase and completing the design scope, so we can complete the design phase in summer of 2026. We will then again return to council for cost appropriation when we're ready for bid. In 2025, we also completed other projects such as the shuttle evaluation study, also reducing speeds at multiple locations across the city. We also implemented the Coleman Ringwood pilot as well as the study, and we'll continue to support the ongoing coordination with major development projects, including the Willow Village and Parkline, to ensure that transportation elements are considered as well as aligned. With that, I'll pass it on to Michael.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Michael Fu, Assistant Public Works Director for Engineering, and I'll be highlighting our 5-year street maintenance plan in addition to a few upcoming projects next year. Great. So firstly, the 5-year street maintenance plan is a 5-year plan that inventories and proposes street maintenance projects throughout the cities for the next 5 fiscal years. The goal of the plan is to maintain the city's overall pavement condition in good category And as we plan and implement these projects within the plan, we make sure to coordinate and integrate transportation and traffic calming improvements into the design where applicable. As you can see from this diagram, a typical street maintenance project includes pavement rehabilitation across the street, but just as well, we also look for the aforementioned, traffic improvement or traffic calming, transportation improvement, and assessment of accessibility upgrades, including curb ramps. Funding for the plan comes from a variety of sources, including the gas tax, construction impact fees, SB1, and Measure W, where qualifying transportation enhancements apply. Oops. So moving on to the first project that we have identified to share is the 2026 street maintenance project. This is consistent with the 5-year plan that was mentioned in the last slide. And again, to reiterate, the goal of this project is also to try to keep our overall PCI pavement condition index in the good categories. For next year, we identified 5 key projects for street maintenance. This includes the annual slurry project, improvements on Bay and Pierce roads, resurfacing efforts as part of the Sand Hill Road water main replacement project. We have our annual on-call asphalt and concrete repairs for emergency ad hoc or just projects based on demand, and then upcoming resurfacing work by Cal Water. And again, these projects would all include integration of signing, striping upgrades, and where identified overlaps with transportation improvements will be proposed as well. So this map highlights sort of an overview and illustration of the 5 projects that was described in the last slide. Starting kind of from the left and highlighted in the blue dashed line is the Sand Hill Road water replacement project. This project spans Sand Hill Road, where it tees up to Sand Hill Circle, all the way across Sand Hill Road, and then up on Monte Rosa Drive, ending at Siskiyou Drive. This is about a 4,300 linear foot replacement of water mains, but staff identified that it would be cost and time effective to perform pavement repairs as part of this project. So we will be resurfacing and slurring this corridor as part of this project bid. Moving on to the next project I want to highlight is also in blue. It spans University Drive, Partridge Avenue, and Harvard Avenue. This consists of upcoming resurfacing work by Cal Water for water main upgrades. As part of their encroachment permit application, staff also identified that these 3 streets would require resurfacing, and we are partnering with Cal Water to cost share resurfacing of those streets beyond their trench restoration limits tentatively next year. I would also just want to note that part of the Cal Water work does overlap Middle and University, which was recently constructed. Staff did share the Middle Avenue plans with Cal Water during project design. However, we were not informed that their scope of work extended into Middle Avenue until the project was into construction. So as part of Cal Water's encroachment permit condition, they will be required to restore that intersection to meet or match what we recently constructed. Then kind of moving on to the right of the screen, we have Bay and Pierce Road. Those are going to be bid together in one package. Those improvements include generally, roadway, pavement repairs, curb ramp upgrades, signing and striping improvements. Yes.
Sorry, where is that on the map?
Oh,
What color maybe?
yeah, it's on the,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, it's on the right in the yellow, and districts 1 and 2 as highlighted. Yeah, right next to each other near US 101. Yes. So those 2 projects will include pavement repairs, signing and striping upgrades, including evaluation of curb ramps, high visibility crosswalks at select places, and then assessment of drainage where there's indication of ponding. I do want to note that for Pierce Road specifically, we have currently sharrows that are being proposed. However, next month we will be engaging with the CSC and the City Council to propose parking removals along the 101 side of Pierce Road from Del Norte to Carlton Avenue. And contingent upon the City Council's approval of that parking removal, We would be including a bicycle lane along that side of Pierce Road as part of the project improvements. So lastly, before we move on to the next slide, is a highlight of the annual city slurry seal project. This project includes up to 14 streets citywide and is part of our annual street maintenance program to help maintain our PCI.
Can I ask you a quick question? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Because in the legend, the colors between the Pearson Bay Roads Improvement Project and Safe Routes to School are so similar, could you just point out which ones are the Safe Routes to School intersection improvements?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So the reason why they're similar is because Bay Road, Pierce Road, and the Safe Route to School improvements are proposed to be bid in one package. But to answer your question, the Safe Routes to School corridors or intersections are at Oak Avenue and Oak Knoll Lane and Sharon Road and East Ridge Avenue. And we will have a slide about that as well to further clarify. Thank you. So the status of the street maintenance projects for 2026, we will be presenting this as an informational item to the City Council on December 16th. We do anticipate sufficient funding to construct all of these projects, and we will be going to bid tentatively next spring with construction following from summer to fall. So to follow up on your question, good timing here. The Safe Routes to School improvement is the next project I want to share with you. It includes intersection upgrades at Sharon Road and East Ridge Avenue, Oak Avenue, and Oak Knoll, servicing La Entrada Middle and Oak Knoll Elementary School, respectively. The project generally includes curb ramps, bulb outs, signing and striping, and flashing beacons. The flashing beacons are at Sharon Road. And there is also a Transportation Authority grant eligible up to $450,000. However, the project costs are estimated about $500,000. And we would anticipate on bidding this in January next month, constructed in the summer during school break to minimize disruption to school services. So this next slide highlights the current design of Oak Knoll Lane, and Oak Avenue. As you can see, we are bulbing out that corner at the north. Currently, there is no curb ramp there, so this is this is an improvement from what it was before to meet accessibility and also shorten the crossing. We're also including 2 new curb ramps along Oak Avenue to facilitate the crossing, and we're adding in high visibility crosswalks. And then we're also exploring signing and striping to reduce speeds approaching the intersection along Oak Avenue.
I'm sorry, can you go ahead? Just a quick question. I just, when you said you are providing high visibility crosswalks, does that mean just the striping, or does that yellow? No, I guess that yellow is the bumpy. I was just trying to figure out if you need flashing beacons.
This intersection will not have flashing beacons, but there will be high visibility crosswalks in yellow because it's near a school. And the yellow in the diagram, yes, you're correct. It's for the truncated domes, the domes on top of the ramps.
Can I also ask, were these 2 intersections chosen because of the Hillview walk audit from a year or 2 back? Do I have that correct?
This is Oak Knoll.
Well, but it was big. It was big.
No, they are part of the Vision Zero. It's a tier 3 project, so we've been focusing on tier 1. This is one of the projects that is a tier 3 project.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
Is there any possibility of adding flashing beacons to that crosswalk at Oak and the one on the left, for lack of a better name for it? Or, I mean, I don't know how many of them would get, but I'm just curious if there's any possibility of adding the flashing beacons, particularly because it's sort of around, there is a corner there. And I can attest that, in fact, lots of people roll through those stop signs all day long. So anyway, I'm just curious if that, because I feel like that might help.
Commissioner Seaborn is a teacher at Oak Knoll, just to let you know.
Okay.
So we have typically installed beacons not at such local roads with low vehicle volume. They're typically used in areas like, we have right on Alma, and the scope that we submitted to the Transportation Authority for grant funding, did not include flashing beacons. So we would have to assess if criteria would be met for such an installation.
Moving on to the next intersection as part of the Safe Routes to School intersection improvements, that will be Sharon Road and East Ridge Avenue serving La Entrada Middle School. This intersection improvement would include 3 bulb outs, 2 at East Ridge and 1 at Sharon Road. As you can see, we will be also including high visibility crosswalks here, refreshing the striping and adding new striping rather as well, and installation of 2 RFFB flashing beacons to cross Sharon Road. The next project I want to present are parking plaza renovations at Plaza 7 and 8 downtown. The scope of work for this project generally includes reconstructing the pavement, which is aging across both lots. We would also be restriping the parking stalls to meet the current building code requirements. And as part of our study or part of our work as well, we will be installing lighting along both sides and assessing the accessibility of the site, which would include, paths of travel, curb ramp upgrades, and sidewalk gaps fronting both plazas and 8. This project would also include installation of EV chargers for both sites. Currently, both projects are in design and staff anticipates on going to the public outreach phase early next year. Plaza 7 would be the first of the 2 to be constructed tentatively by fall 2026. There's currently enough funding for Plaza 7. However, an appropriation may be required for Plaza 8 construction. Lastly, we have electric vehicle chargers. So this project spans both the city's hall and corporation yard. There will be about 25 level 2 chargers or 50 stalls because each charger has a dual port, and 6 level 3 chargers along the site. We're also coordinating with PG&E to install a new transformer to power these electrical infrastructures. The corporation yard scope is 1 level 2 and 1 level 3 for the staff and cars parked along that parking lot and on site as well. Currently, we have $2.7 million in available funds. However, this April, we did receive up to $2.2 million in MTC funds for the City Hall scope. This project is also currently in design, and staff anticipates on constructing the corporation yard scope by summer of next year, but the City Hall scope will be in construction by 2027. Early 2027 is the current goal. And with that, I will pass it forward to Azalea. Thank you.
Last but not least, this is our last slide for you. We have been working for many, many years. I think this is the Middle Avenue Caltrain crossing has been a vision that the city has had for decades. So City Council did select an option 3 in 2023. We've been since in design with Caltrain. We are working on updating the City Council early next year on where we are with the cost estimates. And at this point, we're struggling with a $60 million, potentially $60 million price tag. So we will return to council with the plan was to have them give us a go or no go, given that we would have a shortfall in funding. So we currently have grants for some of the construction, but with the updated costs, we would be facing quite a shortfall. So we'll be returning to council early next year on the update for this project. And with that, this is a very high-level overview of the Public Works Department, our many different divisions, the coordination that we engage with across our teams within the department and as well as the city, and would love to get any questions and feedback on the project highlights or the department structure.
I have a couple of like kind of specific questions that I'm just kind of curious about. I guess for the first one, for the parking, the Plaza 7 and 8, is the impact of that restriping going to end up being a reduction in the number of parking spaces?
So yeah, unfortunately, the current striping alignment is rather narrow and doesn't meet compliance. So in order for us to be in compliance, it would result in a loss of parking, and that will need to be shared as well when we ready to outreach.
Okay. Yeah, I've just noticed that those parking spaces are narrow and that's probably for the best in regards to not hitting cars next to you. So, and I do have like one more kind of specific question that's more, it's an example that's just helps me kind of understand the process. But so I saw on the list of projects that you guys have the Willow Class 4 bike lane, which I know extends towards the VA, all the way over to the VA. I also noticed that they've done some repainting of the, like now there's a little bike symbol painted on Willow, like on the pavement. And so I guess my question is kind of like, what is the interplay between your like maintenance, resurfacing, and some larger project like that?
And for that project, I think you may be referring to work actually that Caltrans recently did. So it's there right away. The Willow Class 4 project, we just finished the preliminary, the initial study, and and we presented to that project to you a few months ago. We will be advancing on the design, and then we'll be assessing what the construction costs and needs would be. So it is a project that is a few years away if we're able to fully obtain the construction costs. So the interplay that, yes, the improvements that were done by Caltrans recently would have to be modified, but we are a few years away and don't have the construction funding for that project yet.
Okay, so is it like a sort of length of time usually, where if there's like some sort of resurfacing thing that needs to get done, that might bump up the priority for kind of prioritizing the larger design, so that those can get done at the same time? Does that happen? I'm just curious.
Well, so our street resurfacing program is annual, right? And so we're looking at the entire city for projects like that are they're basically not in our right of way. It's Caltrans. But the city recognized that the bike safety is a priority for us. So we are continuing, the transportation team is continuing to work with Caltrans on that design as we in parallel also take care of the rest of the city. So you're at this time, we're able to prioritize both, and because they meet different objectives.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, just quick point of order. Is the process that we're asking questions and will there be public feedback, public comment?
Yeah, right now is clarifying questions.
Clarifying questions. Okay. I'm just trying to think if my question is a clarifying question. I guess it is, yes. Okay. My clarifying question is, one thing that's always vexed me, I just don't know the answer to this question. Perhaps you do, because I know you spoke about the repaving projects, but it seems like there's this wonderful kind of opportunity for safety improvements to our city's streets embedded in the resurfacing projects, because when you do them, you also look and say, oh, is there anything we need to improve on the street? So the one thing that I've never quite understood is, where is the cross-referencing? Like, on what basis is that decision made about what kind of safety improvements, if any, would be made and what they would be? Are you cross-referencing that street with feedback you've gotten from the public? Are you cross-referencing that street with collision data from Vision Zero? Because this commission, and I don't think the public gets kind of a heads up like, hey, we're resurfacing this street. Does anyone have any feedback about potential improvements? It doesn't seem like that's one of the things that's looked at. So I'm just curious how that goes.
So we actually do. So we have a long list of, as part of our Slow Streets program, we'll be presenting to you the long list of resident requests that we do receive on local streets. When we plan our resurfacing, we actually coordinate within our teams to assess what is on that list in terms of direct feedback from the public. We also assess accessibility improvements in terms of looking at ADA ramps. So we try to take on a complete streets approach. We also take a look at the Vision Zero action plan and transportation master plan in terms of maybe the installation of bike lanes like we're doing right now for Pierce, which will be returning to you in January. So we try to be rather comprehensive. We have a long list. We also have a technical review in terms of what improvements do we see here from a technical perspective that are needed. So we also have to work within our budgets. The street resurfacing program has a steady budget, but construction costs continue to increase. So we try to be mindful of the needs as well as the budgets that we have to work with.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you for explaining the comprehensive approach. And I think it's great that you're cross-referencing with things like, Vision Zero data and the opportunities you see as engineering experts on that street. I think what I was trying to understand is I guess it's good to tell the public that it's important that they provide feedback about streets to you because you're taking resident feedback that's been submitted into account, right, when you're looking at those streets for those opportunities. So I think it's a good thing for the public to know. Thank you.
That's fine. Can I just piggyback really quick on what, mostly it's just because I feel like we probably can't say it loud enough. I think it's awesome that when public make comments and send in information about concerns they have about their roads, that like all those comments, even if the problem isn't solved in the immediacy or even in the like 5-year immediacy, like that those comments are held onto and considered when like plans are made for that road. And I think it's super helpful, and hopefully people are listening to that so they know that when they are making those comments, like they're not just disappearing, that we're listening to them and keeping them to use for when we do road work. So like, thanks for that.
Maybe just continuing this line, is there an opportunity to coordinate not just within the city, but also with the other agencies that are working on the roads? And I'm thinking of the Cal Water example that you gave, where they didn't line up their Middle Avenue project with our Middle Avenue project. And as a result, like, an excess of public money is going to be spent. It sounds like they're doing this resurfacing on Partridge and other streets in Allied Arts where we've had many comments to us about a slow streets opportunity there from that neighborhood and cut through traffic. We discussed it in our very last meeting, in fact. And I wonder, in addition to the coordination within the city, is there also an opportunity to enhance coordination with the other agencies that are working, like Caltrans, like Cal Water, where we might not have full control? But for example, Partridge Street could be improved, it could be slowed in line with the slow streets goals of the city for possibly only a small amount of extra money on top of what they would be repaving anyway when they rip up the street.
So we have monthly meetings with all the utilities, with PG&E, with West Bay and Cal Water. We give them our 5-year maintenance plan. Sometimes they, it also has to align with their planning. So the water main work that we just learned about was something that I think they most likely expanded their scope. And so things like that do happen. But we have monthly meetings with them. Specifically on Partridge, we have looked at that segment quite over many years and haven't hit the threshold, the criteria for traffic calming improvements in those segments. That is a segment that we've collected data on for quite a while and have shared that information with residents. So, but indeed, we typically engage with the utility companies on a monthly basis because we want to plan and be able to include these improvements for that section on University. I think they expanded their scope. And that was unfortunate, but indeed, we take the same process in terms of looking at other transportation improvements and cost sharing with them so that they can, and they've been great partners, we have to say, in terms of working with us on expanding their scope and us entering in a cost sharing agreement.
I'm sorry, I did have a few more. Did you have a clarifying question? Oh, so sorry. I just had two more. I apologize. I'm afraid I missed your name in the middle of the gentleman. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm Michael Fu.
I thought it was
Yeah.
Michael. Okay, Michael, thank you. I just didn't want to not address you by your name. On the map, when it said some of the projects were slurry seal projects, I'm going to assume, because they weren't described as resurfacing, that those are not the kinds of projects that maybe initiate a discussion around those roads or safety improvements on those roads. Is that the case?
No, for the slurry project or resurfacing project, it does still go through like that comprehensive.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah, the review process that Azalea highlighted. Some recent examples I can point to were Valparaiso from 2024, where we
Yeah.
partnered with Atherton to put comprehensive improvements there.
Great.
And that same year, as part of that same slurry project, we did some striping improvements along Willow from Middlefield to Laurel Street. So those are some recent examples of when slurry also triggered that same level of coordination.
Okay. I really appreciate that answer because there were just a couple of the slurry projects that jumped out at me as, oh, that road we've heard comments around. So thank you. The other thing was, can you quickly throw up the slide? This might have been in Joanna's presentation. I'm sorry, I don't remember, but the one where it said fiscal 25-26 highlight slide. It went by a bit quickly and I just wanted to, thank you. Oh, that was it. Yeah. Fiscal year 20, that's right. Okay. I'm curious if this deck, I know the presentation decks are often included in the next meeting's minutes, so it would be so helpful to have all this incredible information. Really appreciate it. I think the presentation's been excellent. My clarifying question, I guess, was, can we, this is important, I think, to the TMP subcommittee, but I also think it's so essential for all of us to see. So hopeful that the slide deck will be included. Thank you very much. And here we go, construction. So I know you said Santa Cruz Avenue construction is 2027. I'm curious, what would be the construction that we'll be seeing in 2026 in terms of projects that whether corridor projects or whatever, what do you think there will be any, or is that more 2027?
If I understand your question, what projects do we have in the queue for 2026?
For actual construction?
Oh, yes. So do you want to go to that slide?
Yeah, so we can kind of clarify better with that slide. Maybe
That one.
Yeah. So we can maybe go to the previous one
previous,
first,
yeah,
as
okay.
the
There we go.
graphic can be a little overwhelming, but from the major roadway projects for 2026, we've identified the 5 bulleted in the slide, which again will be the annual slurry seal project. It's a citywide project that has up to 14 streets across all 5 districts. We had the Bay and Pierce Road Improvement
Yeah.
Project, the Sand Hill Water Project. The on-call project is more of a, as needed ad hoc kind of repair based on demand. And then the resurfacing work by Cal Water that was just discussed. So those are the 5 key projects we've identified for construction next year.
Okay, thank you.
And could I just ask, on the Sand Hill project, for example, that's another water project that might have implications for Sand Hill traffic calming, which was on another slide. Is there a coordination opportunity there to do the water main improvement and also slow the traffic on Sand Hill?
That's our project. That's actually our water line, the city's water line, so it's not
Okay.
Cal Waters.
Okay.
So we're only working on the westbound lanes and we'll be slurry sealing section between Monte Rosa and Siskiyou.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
And that is not part of a TMP project. That is, yeah.
got it. So do any of these, like replacement and improvement projects have opportunities for safety improvements as well, like built
Mhm.
into them?
Yes, that's why. So for Bay and Pierce, we're looking at coming back to you on Pierce to assess parking removal for the installation of a bike lane. So that is one. Bay, we're actually, Bay has traffic calming. So we're looking at optimizing the location of the speed humps so that they actually are spaced accordingly to ensure that the speed limit is met. We're adding high visibility crosswalks, signage. So yes, all these have that comprehensive element. And if there is a TMP project, we fold that into that, like on Pierce.
My question is, one of your first slides was that we have 5 vacancies within Public Works. I'm so sorry. I think it's been like that for a little while. Can you clarify what efforts are being made to fill those? Do you think that they'll be filled anytime soon? When they are filled, how much more capacity will Public Works be able to take on?
This has been a lean and mighty team. I can't, so Michael has been with us for 10 years. I was here the first time when he got hired. And this team has seen many changes, and we're very lucky that Michael is still here with us. We are, unfortunately, we're not alone in the Bay Area as it relates to vacancies. A lot of my colleagues poach. And you know, we always support growth. If there's an opportunity for growth elsewhere, great, you know, but it's been extremely challenging for us. We do have a community here, and I'm a resident as well. They have comments. We try to be as receptive to them. We are technical folks, so sometimes those requests are valid. Sometimes they don't meet the criteria. We're doing what we can. What you don't see here, we're highlighting to you the street and transportation projects, but we have a lot of projects on hold.
And I should have started with, well done.
No.
Such a good job. I just know it's been a couple of years that it's been, that we've had some vacancies. So well done, guys. Thank you.
So, and just to add, the support that the council and commissioners provide to staff makes a world of a difference in terms of retention. So very much appreciate the support.
I just had a clarifying question on so for like sidewalks and Samtrans bus stops that kids use to get to school, is that the on-call concrete repair? And then there's like segments of sidewalks because of historical reasons, there's like gaps in the network. Would that be part of the repaving, or is that on call, or how does that work? Or is that still up in the air? Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a great question, Commissioner. I think it's not a yes or no question. I think it depends on the location. So typically we do leverage sidewalks as part of frontage improvement review during our land development processes for qualifying projects. So in short, like if the sidewalk abuts a property owner per highway code and the city's municipal code, it's incumbent upon the owner to repair the sidewalk, and that would pertain certainly to gaps or just lack of sidewalks thereof. The city can repair sidewalks and other concrete improvements with its on-call contract, but that will need to be assessed as to whether or not that's kind of the city's responsibility and where it is location-wise.
If I can add, this is a question we receive a lot. So we do not have a sidewalk program. We do have a sidewalk master plan that outlines gaps, and we wait for development to fill in those gaps. City Council has made decisions in the past to build sidewalk segments on safe routes to school corridors, Santa Cruz being one of them. Those went through quite a budget appropriation process because we don't have a budget set aside for sidewalks, given what Michael just said in terms of where that responsibility lies. Where we do repair, if we receive tripping hazard requests, we address them temporarily. We notify the property owner that they have to make permanent repairs. For sidewalks that are managed by trees, we do have a landscape assessment district. And every year we take a look at all those segments that we have repaired on a temporary basis. We then have every year we do a sidewalk repair program that's funded by our landscape assessment district, but that's only on sidewalk segments that are damaged by city trees, and that's a dedicated funding. So it is something that we do receive questions on often. There isn't a sidewalk program, and we just wait for the opportunity.
Thank you.
One clarifying question on the middle overpass or crossing. So I think you said that the plan that was approved in 2023 is now estimated to be $60 million. Was there, which sounds high, was there a budget associated with this project, and so it's X million dollars over budget?
Yes, indeed. When the city was applying for funding, and there's earmark funding, there's also OBAC funding for this. The estimates that were developed by the engineering team at that time placed this more between 20 and $30 million. So we have been working around an electrified railway has definitely resulted in complications. Caltrain is increasing their train service. We've been evaluating many options on how to build this tunnel while not impacting their operations. So it's gotten rather complicated, but indeed the engineering estimates from a few years ago were low.
See, thank you.
Okay, I think we can pause our clarifying questions and go to public comment. Can you please call for public comment on this item, Katrine?
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table, bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. Okay, Rich, you can come.
Yes, if I could ask Michael to put that slide of the Oak Knoll intersection back up again. It's difficult to read even from that angle there, and this screen is ancient. Sorry? Oh, there it is. I think that's the one. Yes. Okay, great. So I need to get a couple of clarifications. The plan is to retain the stop sign in front of Rick Morris's house and the crosswalk where it is now. Is that correct?
Sorry, please.
That's correct.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, because a few years ago, Kevin Chen was suggesting that it be moved inward, which is a problem for us. Okay, so it's going to stay. And will it be elevated the way it was contracted for in 2008 with Granite Rock to an amount of $50,000 for 2 raised crosswalks, like the ones on Laurel, the one at Oak and Vine was done at the proper height. The one here is too low and it has depressed over years with heavy trucks going over it. And that's why we are experiencing inbound cars just rolling right through that. And as Jackie mentioned, it's a curvilinear alignment. I have some videos that I have taken where parents who are walking their school children across that cannot even be seen from the last speed hump. So if you could well imagine the difficulty we're going to have of that if it's not raised to really make people slow down. But more importantly, I've discussed in the past, We need to have something between that last speed hump and the stop sign. And I had suggested bot stops, if you're not familiar with those. They're very inexpensive. They go down, not an issue for cyclists, but they give a much needed force feedback to the drivers. If you're pretty familiar with them, where freeway ends and you'll get that force feedback. So that would be a very strong suggestion. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. And it's an accident waiting to happen. And there are too many young kids who will struggle to free themselves from the parents' hands as they're venturing out into the crosswalk area. We need to really, really get the cars to slow down. And what's there now is ineffective, because with radial tune suspension these days, these cars, they just try to catch air going outbound to Sand Hill and coming inbound. And it's very, very scary. So those are the comments. And most importantly, though, we would like to have the opportunity to meet with staff before they put this out to bid to really go over the fine details in the field. Jennifer Wise's predecessor, Maria Dorr, was kind enough to come out twice to meet with Rick and I and other neighbors. I requested that of Jennifer Wise a year ago to her first meeting, and repeatedly, nothing. So if I can't rely on council members to follow through and represent concerns of their district constituents, I would certainly ask you to request the staff to come out and meet with us so that we're all on the same page and really make it worthwhile for the safety of the kids. That's my number one priority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Having no one further in queue for public comment, Rick Morris, you have your raised hand. You're unmuted.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was just going to reiterate what Rich said. Thank you for leaving the stop sign where it is on that lower left crosswalk. Much appreciated. But I would definitely like to see a speed bump between the speed bump and that crosswalk inbound traffic from Sand Hill. And you know, I've driven on Encinal many times, and they have those, I don't know what they call them. They're like a rubber speed bump. I think that'd be perfect. Just put one of those right in between the last speed bump and the crosswalk. So, and I'd be happy to meet with the staff as well, along with Rich. Thank you.
Thank you.
Having no one in queue for public comment, I return the meeting to the chair.
Does any commissioners have any further discussion?
I had a clarifying question. I know at one point there was a mini traffic circle that was being considered for this, and that was presented to the Oak Knoll School principal, and I saw it in my capacity at Safe Routes there. I was just wondering, like, what was the background for this design, and what are the possibility for changes, given that the design's already been proposed to a funding agency? It sounds like there's some limits on the number of changes that could be made, but could, for example, we take the recommendation of that public comment and add a little bit more traffic calming? I'm just thinking about the multiple comments we've now received, that the concerns are about the approach from Middle to Olive to Oak Knoll Lane. And if we just treat this intersection in isolation, I don't feel we're actually going to get to the root issue. The stretch of Oak Avenue from Olive Street to Lemon is quite a bit faster than this section over here, which has speed bumps already. That section does not, for example. So this to me feels like a good example of where we need a more comprehensive approach. And just looking at this individual intersection, you don't actually see the picture of the safe route to school, which is now partially built in the middle stretch, but is not built in the approach to this. And if cars are zooming at 45 miles per hour into this intersection, there's only so much that we can do with traffic coming into the intersection if we haven't taken this more complete approach to it. So the question is, what is the scope of changes that we could make, given that the funding's already been approved? And it sounds like this design's already been semi-finalized.
Yes, we have taken into account many of the comments that you heard tonight. We have received them previously. What we don't have up there is the challenging issues with the turning radii. We actually did the analysis with the school bus. So in terms of your question on roundabouts, that's often the challenge with roundabouts, in terms of just making sure that We not only in this case with Safe Route to School, we know school buses go through this intersection, but also emergency service access. We work with fire. One of the challenges that we have with race crosswalks, which was something that was brought up, is that they definitely work in terms of slowing speeds. The grades have to work. We have, and race crosswalks have to be ADA compliant. So we have to make sure that the grades, that we have the grades to work with that. They also do slow down emergency service drivers. So that's often a challenge that we work with fire on in terms of those potential delays. These are very narrow streets. I think it's what's the width of Oak? 24 feet. And in terms of the distances on speed humps, to maintain speed at 25 miles per hour, speed humps should be placed between 300 and 500 feet. This is something that we discussed on the Middle Avenue project. I think between the stop sign and the speed hump, it's 190 feet. So this is where we're limited in terms of options. If the issue here are vehicles not obeying the law, we can definitely work with PD on enforcement. The suggestion on bot dots, we discussed, maybe you can add, Joanna.
So we have internally discussed the possibilities of bot dots, and as a state standard, they are moving away from bot dots for various reasons. One of them is maintenance. Another is that as they become loose, it does become a tripping hazard for pedestrians or cyclists, and they're often made in ceramic. So when it is raining, it is also posing a slippery surface. So for all these reasons, we're likely not proposing bot dots to be placed.
But to your question in terms of a comprehensive approach, our hope with this presentation was to show you what great work was done through our Transportation Master Plan and the Vision Zero Action Plan in terms of where our priorities lie. We have high collision corridors. We're also trying to balance, some of these smaller intersections as well as requests from residents on local streets. So the programming as it relates to our local streets, which, residents see, and us focusing on a data-driven approach to assess improvements that then we fold into our street resurfacing program, to then, finding the funding. And in this case, we were fortunate. We took the effort to apply for grant funding to look at these two intersections that were lower on the tier as it relates to safety. But, there are concerns. So we are trying our best in terms of the budget that we have, grant opportunities, but also taking a look at how to stay focused on the priorities so that we can make progress.
When you talked about the Bay Pierce efforts, I got really excited. One hat that I wear is the Laurel Safe Routes to School parent volunteer, and I get a lot of emails and commentary from parents who are really concerned about Bay, both the bus stop there, cars flying past the bus when it stopped and the stop sign is out, and also a lot of cars parking in the bike lane, which I personally see on a fairly regular basis. And I'm on Bay a lot, both as a driver and as a cyclist. And as a driver, it's a perfectly acceptable street. It's slow sometimes, during peak commute hours, but I think that's kind of mainly the Caltrans has the lights, and I don't know if there's much to be done about that. As a cyclist, it is lacking. And I am wondering if it would be an option during the process to look at bollards, particularly because it is part of a safe route to school, to keep our kiddos and our students safer, to prevent cars from parking in the bike lane, which then forces children to then navigate around them, forces them into traffic. And I know that we've talked about bollards in a variety of circumstances before. as a driver, I've never been inconvenienced by a bollard, but as a cyclist, it's always only made the experience better, more optimal. And I know that we might need a mini street sweeper for that, but I'm all for that if that's what we need. So I just wanted to mention that. I think that is becoming a more heavily used safe route to school within our school community, and anything that we can do as the city, as this opportunity is presenting itself, to encourage, to support, and to ensure safety of not just the kids and also, commuters and anyone else using the space. I would love it if we could do that. Thank you.
Can I just add to that, specifically on the other side, on Pierce, particularly on the side that's right by the highway, right? There's no driveways there. I think that could also be benefited with bollards because that would be in the same, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for the suggestion. So we are, as part of our project design, I'll go to Bay, then Pierce in that order. For Bay, we are going to be restriping the bicycle lanes on both sides of the corridor. And as part of the improvement we're doing, we're also including like a 2-foot buffer zone and abutting that bicycle lane. So that would help, A, provide for the visibility, because I know some of those bicycle lanes are kind of faded, but B, also provide a little bit of an added safeguard along that corridor. In regards to the question on Pierce, if contingent upon the approval of the removal, we would, be implementing a bicycle lane along that US 101 side of Pierce. However, that road is extremely narrow, so we would not be able to fit in like bollards or anything abutting the bicycle lane. Otherwise, it would encroach into the vehicle lane and just provide like another perhaps dangerous situation for vehicles.
So we are adding buffers. I think we have to come back with you with criteria. We are hearing this a lot more in terms of bollards. They're being used in segments like El Camino, where the vehicle volume is higher, speeds may be higher. They work in those situations. For streets such as Pierce and Bay, they may not, in terms of just the thresholds, right, that we look at in terms of the added protection. The buffers will be a huge improvement. On Pierce, we may not be able to do that given the width. From a maintenance perspective, we receive so many concerns on street sweeping and our inability to efficiently sweep up leaves, and so it's an ongoing challenge.
Can I say one more thing? I have just one more thing. I'm good. I just have one more thing. First, I want to say I loved this. I loved getting a nice overview of sort of where we are and why we are where we are and what things are coming through the pipeline. And I feel like we don't already do this every year, but which it's awesome. But I also recognize that it takes staff time, and that's just one more thing to put on the staff time. But just know I really liked it, and I think it kind of preps me for like the next year. So it's nice to sort of see what's coming and why, and I really appreciate the work you put into it. Yeah, I love that. Also, I'm mildly curious. I think I heard something about us building a reservoir, and I've been like, where's that going? And yeah, after that, I think, like, I just want to say for the bollards, like, I get I don't know what the solution is to this issue. I mean, I think some of it is like, I do chronically see like cars just drive a little in that buffer lane. And, it's, I guess, to be fair, bikes are often riding 2 or 3 abreast in the buffer lane. So, we're all using it. But it is just, it's so easy for them to just drive in it. And one of the things I would love a sort of targeted enforcement action where we just start
stopping drivers to talk to them about why you don't just use the bike lane as your overflow lane when you're trying to get around someone turning. Because it turns out that when someone's turning right, they never turn into oncoming traffic. So I know that they shouldn't, but the bike lane seems to be like free for everybody. So however we can figure out how to solve that would be lovely. That's really all I have. But thank you. And where the reservoir is going.
Can
I'm
we go back to
curious.
the reservoir? Yes, thank you.
So the reservoir, we call it a reservoir. It would be an underground water tank. And we've been evaluating a number of locations, Parkline being one of them, and Seminary. We've been taking groundwater levels to assess if we can actually go underground. And both sides seem feasible. So we do have, as part of the development agreement for Parkline, have access to land on Parkline. And so the reservoir would be underground with a recreational facility on top. Now, this is not funded yet. We're in the process of doing a water rate study. And this is something that the city, the water enterprise, separate from general fund or anything water related, has to be funded through water rates. We would have to finance such an improvement, but we are in the process of doing our rates, which would then provide, hopefully sustain the revenue to then borrow money to build the reservoir.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure if I saw it on the slides, but I get it's weekly, sometimes daily, people asking about the Woodland, Middlefield, Willow intersection.
Yeah.
I've been here for 20 years and it's been talked about at least as long as that, if not forevermore. So I know we did so much work on Middlefield between the high school and Willow. And that's been great. I see so many kids every day because I ride that section to drop off my kid and I come back. So I just wanted kind of a status and just make sure it's highlighted because I know the difficulty with Palo Alto and Cordina and all that stuff. So just wanted a sense of that. And a separate one that I've been seeing more cars of, and I've actually had riding my bike interesting experiences with is Waymo. And I wondered what kind of feedback and if that's actually helping with infrastructure and if you're getting any feedback from them or how that's working out. Thank you.
So the Woodland and Middlefield and Willow, kind of all three, even up to Clover a little bit in that whole area is on the list for this year for planning work. And we did do a little bit this summer during the resurfacing. If you notice, there's a high visibility crosswalk, and I think just in the last week or two, there's some bollards that went out to keep a vehicle that's leaving Palo Alto headed to Menlo Park and might be making too tight of a turn to turn onto Woodland. So now they have to go around some bollards. The bollards had been there in the past and were knocked down, so now they're replaced. So it's a temporary improvement while we get through planning more significant improvements in the future.
And also to chime in, we are in coordination with Palo Alto with their bike ped plan.
And then on the Waymo, so we've been sending the concerns that we have received to Waymo, and so we are not seeing safety issues in terms of their vehicles that are regulated, a business that's regulated by the CPUC and DMV. We can't prevent access to public roads, so we would like to work with them to make sure that they're not taking up parking space in places where we have a high demand for parking. That's something, Knoll, for example, a lot of apartment buildings there, very narrow road. And so we would like to work with them to make sure they find parking spaces, maybe at Caltrain or Parkline, right, where there's capacity rather than taking up spaces that are in high demand for our residents. So this is new to all of us in terms of how they can be regulated. At this point, they've been receptive to the feedback. What operational modifications they will make, we're not sure, but we'll continue to engage with them.
Thank you.
I'm just here. I wanted to let you know, I don't know if Kevin heard this too, but this week I heard something on the news radio about in the city of Austin, there were 19 incidents of Waymos going around school buses with flashing red lights. Yeah, yeah. And so it took basically the school district, whatever, they tried to explain, call it out to Waymo, nothing happened, whatever, but then they went and they went to the media and they got some attention to it. But apparently they were like, Waymo's like, we're fixing the software. I just wanted to make a quick comment that I agree to Commissioner Seabrians that this was really helpful to us. Really appreciate your time and also, of course, the work that you do. I think what helps us is to see the full context, all the array of work that you do, the type of budget that's available for the many, many, many projects, and it helps us understand, the urgency around prioritization and focus. And also, as Azalea said, really appreciate your staying with Menlo Park because I like you for 10 years, Michael, but I can only imagine your knowledge base and expertise is so essential to the team. So thank you. And no, you're there, Michael, we got you. But no, I really mean it. Many, many years ago, I worked in public service and it's not easy and just appreciate what you do. Thank you. Sure.
Just a real quick question.
Mhm.
The slide is up there. Can you inform us then, since staff is reluctant to add any other traffic calming, to really make the cars stop at that critical intersection? What is the proposal for the existing crosswalk that was contracted for in 2008 for $50,000 to be built to specs? It is too low. Enforcement is a dream. I attended a Safe Routes to School meeting a year and a half ago. We have 3 traffic officers for the entire city. Motorcycle officer Lopez was there last time, March of 2023. Within 15 minutes, he raced after and gave 7 tickets. I've begged him wherever I see him to come back. We miss him. We've not had any response. So it's wishful thinking. There's a staff shortage, police department. That's not going to change. They are responding to more important issues as backup when needed. So unless we have 24/7 real speed reduction, this is not going to help improve the safety for not only the school kids, but the little kids and others who you have to use that crosswalk to cross. So can I get a clarification? Are you going to raise the crosswalk that's there that was contracted for? Or are you just going to leave it the way it is?
So the current design does not propose raised crosswalk, and I think Azalea touched upon some of the points that were precluding us from doing so. I think, the drainage was an issue, and just as well, the assessment of, how we build it as well, because those things are generally pretty wide. They're I believe like 12 feet. And to meet ADA compliance, because the curb ramps have to be depressed to a certain degree. I mean, having to raise crosswalk does present challenges. We ran into some of those challenges on Middle where we had to do a modification, but we had more, I suppose, right of way width and grading to accommodate it. Here, the site is pretty flat and narrow, so it makes it a little bit challenging. So while I definitely hear your concerns and it is something that we did kind of discuss internally, it's not part of the current design. However, we can maybe discuss kind of what other preventative measures we can implement, between the speed hump and the approach at the intersection, to help reduce speeds. I don't have a clear answer for you at this moment, but we can definitely kind of look at that, whether it means more signing, striping, or other, just preventative measures that we can kind of do in conjunction with this project or as part of sort of future improvements that, would follow kind of the intersection improvements themselves.
Thank
So
you.
It's going to basically be status quo.
Excuse me. Actually, I
What
think
I'm hearing?
your public comment time is limited to 3 minutes, so I appreciate your comment.
Well, we'd like to have a meeting with staff.
Thank you. Okay. With no further questions from the commission on this topic, we can move to item F, informational items. Under informational items, city staff provides an update on matters of importance to the commission. Informational items are not action items. However, a commissioner, city staff member, or a member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. The first informational item tonight is F1, update on major project status. If there are other updates beyond what we just received, Katrine, could you update us?
I have no further updates. I really should have edited that out in the original agenda.
Thank you. Do I need to call for public comment if there are no updates?
I'll quickly call. There's none in the queue. For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature. If you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table, bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. Having knowing in queue for public comment, I return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question about that? So do you have an update on when the speed feedback signs will be installed in Middle? Because I know that's been the last thing.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we were supposed to have those speed feedback signs installed this week, but there was an issue with the order. So we're contacting the contractor to see when the next available date is. And we will let you know as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item G, committee and subcommittee reports. Are there any reports that would like to be, any subcommittees that would like to report out?
If I may give a update kind of from the e-bike subcommittee. I just did want to comment that one of our local school districts, MPCSD, which has 3 local elementary schools and 1 middle school, Hillview Middle School, has been discussing e-bike usage specifically on the Hillview campus for a couple of the school board meetings, and recently decided to ban all Class 2 and all Class 3 e-bikes from campus. So student driven, I should say. So students may not drive Class 2 or Class 3 e-bikes at all on campus. Class 1 are still okay for them to use. And so far, my understanding is that the process is fairly smooth and going fairly well. It does sound like some kiddos are parking off campus, but for the most part, it sounds like the kind of the chaos of fast moving things that look like bikes near the campus has been greatly reduced. And it sounds like the administration's pretty happy with it so far.
I think it also was Class 1s that had been retrofitted, right? Or no?
I think technically any retrofitting is
Yeah.
illegal, period. So they were just codifying that. Yeah.
Thank you to the e-bike subcommittee. Okay, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 8:05 this evening. Thank you all. Thank you, staff, for the great presentation. That was really, really helpful. I'm just echoing what they said, but it was great. Thanks.